let's just start by introducing ourselves. I'm Naomi. I'm the social media manager at Minima, and I'm joined today by Jasmine and Luke. Jasmine, could you quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Jasmine. I'm the Technical Communications Manager. So I'm sure all of you have seen me in the channels already. So I'm kind of helping out with support and helping to write the documentation and testing internally with our developers. Um, and yeah, just keeping everyone engaged.
And we also have Luke with us today. Luke, if you could quickly say a few words on what you do and what you do at Minima.
Hello, everybody. My name is Luke. I'm the head of community here at Minima. And my job ultimately is to get people running nodes and get coins into your pockets, get tokens into your pockets, and grow the network.
All right, great. Yeah, so before we kick it off with our community member of the month, we do have some things to share. Obviously, just maybe let's start with what are we looking forward to for this year? Jasmine, what do you look forward to most?
I am very excited about getting the mini dApps back out there. We have a
Yeah,
lot in store for the community over the next few months, and I think we're really going to start to see the utility of Minima and Maxima play out and see what the possibilities are for what can be built on top of it.
and how about you, Luke?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Mini dApps are. I also can't wait to see those come back and to see what our community can build themselves on it. Because obviously, it's designed to be as simple as possible, and I'm actually looking forward to getting that documentation out there to see what you can all build, and equally opening up more avenues for you to get incentive cash tokens and spread the word about us. And of course, how can I say anything about excitement without talking about mainnet? I can't wait to get to that, and it's gonna be an exciting year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm looking forward to the mainnet. Do you have any views on the outlook for the broader industry or any trends you've observed? Luke, maybe you want to go first for this one.
Yeah, sure. I suppose the big thing at the moment is the increasing awareness on decentralization, which of course is brilliant for us. That plays very much into what we're all about, and also the ever increasing rise of the NFT, and very interesting to see what's being done with that.
I couldn't agree more. Jasmine, do you have anything to add to that?
So I think we'll see a spotlight being shined on the difference between proof of stake and proof of work with the ETH 2.0 merge coming. And I think we're going to see continued talk about the environmental impact of proof of work. So, I mean, obviously with Minima, each user is responsible for sourcing their own energy. So I think there'll be a lot of talk about that. And then a lot more regulation, I believe, as governments decide that they want a piece of the pie.
Yeah, I think we can see those first things happen already. Okay, and then before we get our community member of the month on stage, we have one more announcement to make. We opened up a meme channel because everybody loves memes and everybody loves to make Minima memes, and we have seen that. Luke, do you want to outline what this channel concludes and what people can do in it?
So what we're looking for you guys to do is post all your awesome memes, which we see you put them through all the channels, and we want to bring them together and ultimately have a bit of a competition. So what we're going to do is running up to the end of the month on the 31st as the sort of first run. We are going to give a reward, a prize of 150 incentive cash tokens to the meme which has the most reactions from all of you. So the player's player, if you like. And we're also going to choose as a community team our favorite, so the manager's player. They will both be announced on the 31st, and we anticipate this being a monthly rolling thing. So we're really excited to see what you'll come up with.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all the memes. It's definitely, we are also going to highlight some of the best ones on our social media channel. And with that being said, one thing that really makes Minima Minima is our community. And we are truly blessed to have a lot of amazing community members, and some of them are really outspoken. And thanks to all of you who are constantly advocating for us. And one of them that has been particularly active on LinkedIn recently is Zach. So we would like to congratulate Zach on being our community member of the month. And we are going to get him on stage now to learn a bit more from him. And yeah, congratulations, Zach. And thank you so much for being here with us today. And could you just quickly introduce yourself and share how you came up across Minima?
I'm Zach Kowalik. I'm from the United States. I'm the CEO and founder of a small manufacturing company that happens to also run an e-commerce company. So I've kind of been watching the Web2 social media platform marketing thing play out over the last few years as we've leveraged that to try to grow our business. And it's kind of starting to fail. Things aren't working as good as they used to, especially with Facebook. So I've also been following the blockchain space for the last decade, and I'm kind of looking at where Web3 is going and thinking maybe that's where businesses need to go. And being a manufacturer, we're used to building stuff from scratch. I'm looking at blockchains. I'm not liking what I'm seeing, and so I just started thinking, what would the perfect blockchain look like? Like, what would I want to build on if I was going to make an investment in this space? And I didn't like what I saw, so um, I just started kind of fleshing it out on paper. What would it look like? I kind of started my own little white paper on what I thought it might be, and in the midst of all that research, came across Minima, which was quite a relief because it meant I didn't have to build it myself. I'm certainly not capable of doing it on my own, and was really excited to see that somebody was building what I thought what the perfect or the final blockchain could or should be.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So have you previously been involved? You already mentioned you had come across Bitcoin and blockchain in general. Could you share some on that journey?
Yeah, so I first heard about Bitcoin in 2011 or 12. I'm not a technical guy, so I wasn't mining. But in 13, the price kind of took off, and I'm like, okay, I got to get in. I found a place online where I could buy it, and I remember sitting in the kitchen of the little place that my wife and I were renting at the time, with my finger sort of hovering over the phone, trying to decide whether or not I should spend $900 on 10 bitcoins. Um, and obviously, looking back, I wish I would have done that. I didn't. We just couldn't afford to risk the money at the time, and ultimately, I probably would have lost it anyway. It was the MT Gox platform was the one I was on, and of course, they famously got hacked a year later. So um, a little bit heartbreaking, but definitely early in my exposure to the space, and then had a similar experience with an NFT drop here last year. Had an opportunity to get in early, didn't pull the trigger again. And so I kind of have this habit of like being early and seeing value and getting involved, at least from an information and education standpoint, but then like not actually making the investment or pulling the trigger. And I think looking back now with hindsight, the reason I've hesitated on some of these things is because I always had a little bit of subconscious or underlying just question about, like, is this the right blockchain? Is this the last blockchain? Is this going to work? Is this actually decentralized? Is it actually a store of value? And what we're seeing now, I kind of refer to it as the blockchain wars. We've got so many new blockchains popping up all the time, and a lot of times we're optimizing for the wrong things. We're trying to get faster speeds or lower gas fees, or we're building what the other blockchains aren't, but we're forgetting all the good stuff that they did along the way. And what I think Minima has done is taken all the best of everything that we've learned about blockchain in the last 10 years and put it all into one protocol. And that's where somebody like me can finally look at this and be like, okay, it's a finished protocol. It's complete. I feel confident investing my time and money in building and investing in this space.
Yeah, and speaking of building and investing with your manufacturing company, you mentioned somewhere on LinkedIn as well that you're contemplating using NFTs and maybe even in the augmented reality VR space. Could you share, yeah, what made you think that and how Minima could fit into that?
Yeah. So, first, just from a business standpoint, selling digital goods is just a way better business model than selling physical goods. It's hard to make stuff. You got to ship it, you have to make it, you have to scale it, production facility, you have to buy equipment. It's fun. We like it. That's what we do. We don't want to stop doing that. but it's just really hard to sustainably grow a business if that's your only revenue source. So we're looking to get into digital anyway, and I think that's going to be more important as we go long term for all businesses to have a sort of digital offering. Um, but what I've seen play out in the NFT space, at least more recently, is like people are dropping their NFTs, their profile pictures, whatever they are. They're making a lot of promises. We're going to build a game. We're going to build an app. We're going to build a community. We're going to start a DAO. We're going to have an initial coin offering. They're basically asking for all the money up front and then promising the value and utility later. And I just don't operate that way. It just opens the door for misaligned incentives and potentially fraud. And so our idea is we want to build something valuable up front. And so we're working on this augmented reality app that's kind of specifically for the automotive space. I don't think anyone else has done anything like it before. We want to get it functional. And then if we do end up offering digital products, maybe we sell them as NFTs and they operate or sort of interact with this augmented reality app in a way that brings value to the entire thing. And to me, that just seems like a little bit better play long term, um, to get into this space as a business than just like dropping some cartoon pictures and hoping people give us $1 million.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid way to do it. And I think eventually people are going to wake up that the best use case for NFTs is maybe not have your verified Twitter profile picture be a monkey or a penguin, but
Yeah,
actually something like intellectual property or your concert tickets or whatever it
yeah.
is that you want to have.
Yep,
Yeah.
and those are the exact conversations that I'm having with other business professionals in the space and other really smart people that I know. It's IP, it's access, and I mean, at the very least, good gracious, if you're gonna buy a profile picture as an NFT, let's figure out a way to get the actual image on the chain, or at least you own it on your own device. Like I think that's what people think they're buying, and really they're just buying access to a link that it's stored somewhere else. And so I think there's a lot more education that needs to happen. I think there's a lot better use cases for NFTs than just cartoon pictures. And I think Web3 in general, just with the way the world is right now, if you care about being able to say what you want to say without getting canceled or removed from a platform, if you want to be able to transact with anyone anywhere in the world, if you think it's important, if you think freedom is important, freedom of speech, freedom of economic transactional utility, then decentralization matters, and it matters a lot. And I think just where the world is right now, anti-censorship through decentralization is going to become more and more prominent. And the best way to do that is on a blockchain that is complete, can scale, and is accessible to everyone because it's on a mobile device. And so that's 100% why I'm on board with Minima.
And we are really grateful to have you here. And thank you so much for sharing more. We will now open up this stage as well. If anybody else wants to join us, we have some questions and topics we are going to talk about. Zach, you're very welcome to stay on stage, or you can go to the audience and raise your hand like anybody else whenever you want to join a conversation. You can also put your questions into stage questions, and we will pick them up as we go. Thank you again, and we are looking forward to see what you can come up with manufacturing VR NFTs. And if ever you have questions, you know where to find us. Thank you.
Of course, yeah, thank you.
All right. So let's get into some of the broader discussions, and Zach also picked on that. Jasmine, recently there has been a lot of criticism aimed at Web 3.0. And first, we had this blog post by Moxie, which we also picked up during our AMA last week, where the co-founder of Signal basically concluded that we are not ever going to be truly decentralized because nobody wants to run a server. And then we had Scott Galloway, who is a university professor and renowned author, criticized Web3 for just being just basically being a glorified Web 2.0, where a few make a lot of money and the community doesn't really get much out of it. What was your first reaction to those?
It was kind of painful to admit that a lot of what they said was true. The current so-called Web3 does interact with blockchains, but it uses centralized infrastructure and applications. And that's just because it's easier to use a centralized service than to run your own server. And so I do think that a true Web3 does not exist yet. And I mean, it's human nature to take the path of least resistance, right? So currently, centralized services are easier to use than running your own server. And I kind of think of this like renting versus buying a property. Most people would prefer to buy their own place and have the freedom to do what they want with it rather than rent and be under the control of a landlord. But people often just rent because it's more accessible than buying. But I think that if you give people a choice between running their own server and truly owning their own content and their money versus relying on a centralized system that owns and controls your data, then I think if it's accessible and easy to do, then people would choose to run their own server. And thankfully, with Minima, running your own server is as easy as installing an app on your phone. So I'm really excited about the apps that are coming that will demonstrate.
Yeah, Luke, I think you have quite some experience working with databases and servers as well. What were your first reactions to those articles coming out?
Yeah, sure. I thought my very first reaction was, and I suppose it comes through the frame of what Jasmine was just saying about what Minima allows you to do in terms of running a server on your phone. It was the maybe controversial to say it, but the lack of imagination from Moxie. You're kind of looking at it just through their own understanding of what's capable. But if you imagine a little bigger about making it so that you're removing the barriers and technical overhead and difficulty for an average person to run a server, it's not impossible. And but again, like I said, coming from knowing what was possible with Minim, it makes it easy to say that. Jasmine's absolutely right. You know, being able to run a server on your phone like you can with Minima is incredibly powerful. And I think what I like the most about what we're trying to do here is that people don't even necessarily conceive of the fact that they are running a server. That's how simple it is. They are just running Minima and they will be able to use things upon it, and the underpinnings of how it functions isn't necessarily a consideration for them. And that actually is a very important thing.
Yeah, we have a request to speak, so I'm going to bring Moscow Street King on stage. Let's see.
Hi, my
Hello.
name is Danny. I got
Yeah.
my own Telegram channel about crypto, and I love Minima. I've been in a project, install a node for maybe 3 months. But I got one question: is will be ambassador program?
Yeah, Luke, do you want to say something on that?
Thank you.
No
Yeah, you're
worries.
welcome. So, yeah, long story short, yes, there will be an ambassador program built around our Discord server to encourage you all to spread the word of Minima and bring people to us, to our Discord. There shall be some detail about what that will look like and how that will function coming before the end of the month. So, watch this space.
Okay. I will watch for announcements, but I wanna know. I got some opportunities to get in a ambassador program faster than other people if I got my own YouTube channel, Medium channel, if I got Telegram channel, because I'm I'm telling to the people about Minima because I be in a crypto from 2017, and I seen for the first time I can install Node on the phone, and I tell about this to everybody, and a lot of people use Minima and install this Node, and I love y'all project, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This how you make it, how you get the answers, how you talk with your community. Thank you.
Thank you for being part of our community. And we can reach out to you. But yeah, Luke will share the ambassador program once it's ready, and you will hear from it first on our channels, on Discord, on Twitter, on Telegram. We will make sure that you get all the details. Moving on, let's maybe address another thing. So sometimes there's this idea for protocols that they can become more decentralized over time, and or maybe is the other way more likely to happen, like things becoming more centralized. What do you think would be the drivers of that? Luke, do you have any thoughts on, those concepts?
Yeah. So decentralization, centralization. I think if you start from one place, it's a lot harder to get to the other. If if you take centralization to go out to decentralization as an idea, and I think how it ultimately goes depends on the structure of the protocol, whichever protocol it might be, the methods that it's using, and the psychology it drives within its users. So there's sort of two sides to it. There's if you take a methodology like mining or staking, that I think over time will always cause a trend towards centralization because you are incentivizing people to earn something, and human nature is to want to build your pot as big as possible. And you saw that with even things like technical innovation with ASICs, for example. And if you aren't careful about the way in which you structure things, the human psychology will always win out. And I think that is why Minima works so well, because it's not set up in that way. It's set up to be cooperative rather than competitive. Everyone's working for one another together equally, and that is it's actually the thing that attracted me personally to Minima. The idea of decentralization being built in at its base, at its core.
Yeah, I resonate with that because I used to fall initially when I was joining this space for the Bitcoin is the best narrative. And it takes some time and some digging and some doing your own research until you realize, okay, maybe now it is not as decentralized as they would like me to believe. Yeah, Jasmine, do you have any thing you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think it all depends on game theory and the incentive mechanisms of a protocol. So if there are incentive mechanisms that reward participants for owning as large portion of the pie as possible, then it will tend to go one way towards centralization. And we see this with proof of stake, for example. The more you stake, the more you're rewarded, the more powerful you become. And we see this with the incentivized proof of work on Bitcoin. Even if a protocol is decentralized in some ways, maybe there are a lot of developers building applications, you can only be as decentralized as your most centralized part. And if there are a small number of entities that can control the network, then you're not decentralized at all. But with Minima, because every node helps construct the blockchain, all nodes are equal, and people will be encouraged to join the network because of the utility they get rather than from monetary rewards. And just like you choose to download any other app because they give you something you value, Minima will give you the ability to transfer money and information freely.
Yeah, and that is what blockchain was really meant to provide people with, I think. A free
Exactly.
platform where you can do what you want to do, be that transfer value to your friends or a message. Okay, let's go into some of the community questions we received in advance. So Vlad on Twitter wanted to know what kind of programming languages are best to learn to develop on Minima. Maybe Jasmine, as our technical comms person, you could say, have an answer for that.
Yeah, so to create a mini dApp, all you would really need to learn is some JavaScript, HTML, CSS, just like you're writing a standard website, and then Minima will have its own scripting language. And if you go into the terminal in the app, then you can type in tutorial and you can see the Minima commands available there.
And maybe for the non-techies like me, is it a lot of commands?
No, there's only, I'd say there's less than 40.
Okay.
So not many at all.
That sounds fairly doable. So yeah, anybody looking to develop an app on Minima, all you need is basic web development skills. Okay, and then another question, would be if eventually we will have an integration with something like an Unstoppable Domains, which is, for anybody who hasn't heard of them, it's a service where you can connect your wallet address, your crypto wallet, with something that is human readable, something like mywallet.com. Jasmine, do you have any answers for that
Yes.
as well?
Yeah, so I mean, with Minima, we would hope to have an MNS, and Minima Name Service, which would be the same thing. And we would look for our developers to build something like this out. And the thing with Unstoppable Domains is that there's still this element of centralization there. So we absolutely hope that we can have something like this on Minima.
Yeah, and I would look forward to that because I'm one of these people who cannot remember a 32 character string. Okay, we had another question. Maybe Luke, you can address that because we were just talking about decentralization earlier as well. So there was a question on running multiple nodes with one phone. First of all, is that possible? And second of all, why would you not want to do that?
Well, the short answer is, can you run multiple nodes on one phone? No. Why would you want to is a great question. I mean, the whole ethos of Minima is decentralization. So the very act of putting multiple nodes on one device is centralization in its most pure. I suppose that's coming from a standpoint of the thing we were talking about earlier on, right? The sort of the psychology of trying to build your bag. The best thing to do, if that's where you're coming from, if you're looking to maximize your bag, would be to run your node. Don't try and find any way around that. Could contribute equally along with everybody else to the growth and strength and security of the network, but look out for the other opportunities which will be coming in short order to allow you to accelerate and increase your incentive cash tokens in a fair and equitable way.
Yeah, and I think running two nodes on one phone is obviously also not so helpful for decentralization, because then it takes just one person losing their phone and two nodes are gone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Joshua also just asked a question on the topic of servers. When your mobile becomes a web server, how much power requirements to manage incoming requests and to respond to them? Yeah, does that server then have? How I read this. Maybe Jasmine, you can share something on that since you're deep into the entire Maxima, Minima, and server conversations.
Yeah, I think it's one for probably a question for Paddy, but I mean, Minima is designed to run with no more energy than any other app on your phone. Paddy's
Oh,
here.
Oh, a wild Paddy
sorry.
appeared.
well,
Yeah, I was trying to work out how to stick my hand up, but it seems that all I have is become speaker. So yeah, I wanted to put my hand up. If it's all right, I can answer that question if you'd like.
Go
yes,
ahead.
please.
Yeah, no, basically, so running a web server is actually very, very little energy. It's just a data transfer. They ask for a packet of information and you return that packet of information. There's very little processing going on. I know these things seem complicated, and yes, we run them on servers online. But you know, my current Surface Duo, which I really like, I might add, is as powerful as my laptop was 5 years ago. And my laptop 5 years ago was easily as powerful as a server that I had 5 years before, when I think you'll remember we had quite a large internet going. So what is asked of your phone when you're trying to run some of these legacy, you know, your phone's got very fast SQL databases on it, you know, SQLite, et cetera, et cetera. So they've optimized these applications. So you can actually run what we as, you know, full stack developers call a LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. You can run that without actually stressing your phone at all, especially in comparison to what Minima itself does. So the only issue is the data, is the, you know, communication between the different devices. The only issue, which is what Maxima tries to fix, is how do I communicate with other people on this peer-to-peer network? And that's really what you need to fix. And as soon as that's done, then you've got everything you need to do all the things that you want from your phone. You know, I played that car game at 120 frames per second on my Samsung, what my kid does. That's got physics, that's got cars, that's refreshing a rather large 2K screen at 120 frames per second. These are not nothing devices. This isn't a Tamagotchi. This is actually quite a powerful, easily more, 1,000 times more powerful than the computer that got us on the moon. So yeah, it's not a problem in that sense. The issue is routing of data from you to where you want it to go and receiving that reply. That's where the technical, nous has to come in.
So will people have any control over incoming requests, outgoing, what data flows through their server?
Very good
No.
question. Yeah, no, very good question. And what I am going to say is that when you start, like, when there's 100 million users on the network and we're each running our own little web server, then the idea that somebody can take down the network becomes nonsensical. But the idea that somebody knows where you are and tries to DOS you personally, then that is something that you're going to have to think about. Then that is, you become an entity on the network. Lots and lots of effort is put into, Cloudflare, for instance, and other device and other, things that you can use on the internet to stop people from, just sending thousands of requests to the same server. And the truth is that we'll have to have things like that running as well. And we'll have to, you can throttle the amount of data that you can have. Maxima can reject once you reach a limit. What you really want, to be fair, is you want to be paid when you transfer the data. And that way you're incentivized to, send as much data as somebody wants to send. Because frankly, if you're going to pay me to send it, then I'll send it. Or if you're going to pay me to receive it, this data is, all the data sent on Maxima is encrypted and signed, which means that you know who sent it. You're the only person that can encrypt it. So there's some really interesting ways that we can actually incentivize the network correctly, so that I can say I only want Jasmine, I only want Luke to send me messages, and that can be one way of doing it. But if you're going to say, look, I want anybody to be able to send me a message, then you need to be able to handle that sort of traffic. There are always trade-offs. There's always things that you have to decide. Unfortunately, perfection does not exist. But what I will say is that for 99.999% of people, this will never be an issue. And what you want to do is you want to see if you can fix the edge cases. What you want to do is you want to add in security and limitations and ways that some of the people on the fringes of the network can smooth out their relationship with the network. But I don't see it as something that is going to affect everybody. And in fact, I see it as something that very few people are going to be even remotely bothered by. The truth is that 99.99% of the websites on the internet get about 100 visitors a day. Yeah, the big boys, Amazon, Netflix, the FANGs, yes, they get millions and millions of users. But for the rest of us, who can actually run a very successful site, if 50% of your customers are coming to your website, if they come to your website because they know that they want to buy something and 50% of them buy something, 100 people is a lot. Yeah, so you can actually sustain an existence even on, frankly, fractionally small amounts of traffic, and that's easily possible on your phone. So am I going to be able to run Netflix to 1 million users on my phone? Probably not. But having said that, there are interesting and clever things that we can do even in that scenario. Because, for instance, there's a difference between Minima and Maxima fundamentally in that Minima is finished. Minima, the protocol, is not going to change at launch. Maxima is not consensus critical, as I refer to it. And what that means is that can be upgraded ad infinitum. Yeah, we can change Maxima as we come up with new ideas, as we come up with better transport protocols, as we come up with better ways of, other people could store different bits of the data so that when you ask for something, maybe they don't need to ask you. Maybe somebody has a signed, verified piece of data that you definitely made. And they say, well, actually, I happen to have that page, so you don't need to ask Spartacus for it. I can give it to you myself.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, our devices are only going to get more powerful. Sorry to interrupt.
of course,
So I would think that, as you said, like 5 years ago, what you could do with your phone was a lot more limited than what you can do now. And usually technology advancement only accelerates. So I would think that eventually we can probably stream Netflix to 100 people from our phone without any issues, and potentially even over Maxima. And yeah, it's also a question of freedom, right? Because you can do what you want with your Maxima node. We are not going to restrict people. If they want to, they can transfer all these data. If they don't, they don't.
Absolutely. It's frankly up to you what you choose to do, who you choose to tell where you are. You know, you don't have to tell anybody. Nobody even knows that you're on there. Um, as you say, you're free to do what you want, which is really what the whole point.
All right. I think that should answer the question. If not, Joshua, feel free to drop another one. And thank you, Patty, for
Okay.
stopping in here.
Okay, cool. I'll go back to the audience. Thanks so much. You're doing great, guys. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, so we also just got another questions, which is more around the utility that will be provided. Montre asks, we are told that the incentive to run Minima will be the utility, which makes sense at launch. When it seems important that the utility is clear, what do you expect will have already been built by then that is useful for people, or do we have to wait until launch? Or what do you hope that devs will build? Jasmine, do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, so I think internally we have a few apps that we are testing, which I think will kind of mimic existing apps that you may use, but in a way that gives you anti-censorship, freedom of speech. And so I think and that's just one kind of application. And I think with these things, once they're out there, word of mouth can kind of take over once you reach a critical mass. And I think it's difficult because obviously you need people to use it before it can grow, but then you still need great products as well. So yeah, I don't know what else to add to that really.
Yeah, Luke, do you have anything to add to it?
I was going to say, I think Jasmine did a very good job there of walking the line of what we really want to talk about, but are not able to just yet. With the like Jasmine says, there are a suite of applications under test that we should hope to be able to talk more about in the coming weeks. If I was to try and quantify what they are, it would be that we are trying to, we will be giving you applications that will provide utility on Minima that will have real value to you. They won't just be experimental, hey, look at what we can do things. They will be actual useful tools for you. And that's just what, the team are working on internally. This is before we even talk about what the developers within the community can build as well once we start that process. And then we should see a whole host of things available. But to come back to the end of their question, which was, do they have to wait until mainnet to see these things? The answer is no. They will have access to these things ahead of that time.
Okay, another very common question we get quite a lot, and one of them is iOS still on the roadmap? Luke, what do you tell those people?
iOS, a small but noisy group. Yes, iOS is definitely something that is being looked at. It's being worked on actively to work on a solution. I think they touched on the idea that it's the running in the background which we require. That is sort of being looked into how to overcome that. But all I can say really at the moment is it is being looked at, it is desired, and once there is a firm piece of news to deliver on that, we will get that out there.
Okay, on that note, somebody also, T8 on Twitter, asked if we have a percentage of Minima nodes by type, and by that they mean Windows, Mac, Linux, Android. Jasmine.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure of that breakdown. Luke, do you know?
Not the specifics. No, I mean, I can go from looking at the types of sort of more from my own observation, talking to people, that I would say that sort of half and half between Linux server and Android, and obviously there are Windows and Mac amongst that, but I don't have the specific numbers now.
Okay. And yeah, we already touched upon it. Yeah, one big thing these days are obviously NFTs. Do you both have any? And if yes, what are your worries or, yeah, your challenges with them? Jasmine?
I actually don't own any NFTs, which I don't know. I kind of would like to own one, but I mean, I find it difficult to know how to value them in the long term. And I guess the challenge with them is that they can be extremely illiquid. So, you know, it's hard to figure out how to value this and whether it's going to be worth something in the future. So if I were to buy something, it would be something like a domain name, I think.
Mhm.
But again, as we mentioned earlier, these still kind of rely on centralized services. So yeah, I don't own any at the moment.
But maybe eventually down the road
Yeah,
you will own some mini NFT.
exactly.
And how about you, Luke?
Yeah, you know what? I'm exactly the same as Jasmine. I flirted with it, but I've never pulled the trigger. And it's because of what Zach said earlier on, actually. The idea, right now at least, where you're buying almost the promise of something, the provenance of something, but you're not actually owning it outright. You know,
Yeah.
that's the way I kind of approach it. The physical file always lives somewhere else. If I was to buy, for example, a piece of art, I want to own that piece of art, put it on my wall, and even in the digital realm, I'd want that file. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. I'd if we get to the place where it's on chain, and I actually have that file, or at least I have the um, the custody of that file, say on my own Minima node, then I would be much more likely to do that. I have seen ideas around NFTs as a means of producing tickets for events. That's probably more the sort of NFT I'm likely to buy myself right now. Yeah, when the future gets to when we arrive at a future where I'm owning that file outright along with my smart contract, then I will be all over it.
Yeah, and I think, well, recently OpenSea has gotten a competitor, but what people maybe also realized is that a lot of other services actually rely on platforms like OpenSea to show them their NFT. So when OpenSea is down, for example, or let's say whatever other NFT platform might be popular, they can't see their NFTs anymore on their wallet because that API call fails. So I think that's also still a bit of a vulnerable point. Personally, I do own NFTs, but whenever I bought them, I saw them more as a donation to the artist and not really as an investment. So yeah, because I can totally understand it's not really possible to value them because it's not rational, in my opinion. Like, why is a ape more valuable than a penguin or a seal? I don't know. So yeah,
Yeah,
and
you're clearly more altruistic than me. I think if I bought an NFT or something and then I went online and found that there'd be, I don't know, an AWS outage and suddenly I couldn't see my NFT, for me, that would have been like an Emperor's New Clothes moment. I'd be like, hang on a minute, what do I actually own?
yeah, yeah, no, but it's definitely like anybody buying them should certainly ask that question, what do I actually own? Because some might notice that even though they might own the picture, maybe it's even on chain, they don't own the copyright. That means they're not allowed to actually do anything commercial with the NFT. So you're not allowed to sell merchandise or use it for, I don't know, making a comic strip or movie out of it. So that's another one to keep an eye on. And yeah, maybe one more thing, because our purpose is to empower freedom. And freedom is something very individual. So what does freedom mean to you, Jasmine?
I think freedom to control my own data, to know where that's being used, to also be able to share and access knowledge without restrictions. or fear of repercussions. And then also financial freedom, so being able to transact with whoever, wherever, knowing that they are truly mine and not someone in the middle taking a cut of that.
Yeah, how about you, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, owning my own data is a big thing for me. I really get wound up when I think of the big companies that are profiting off my data, and freedom for me is being in control of what of my data is used, and if it is used on my own terms and hopefully at my own profit ultimately. But being more philosophical, I think freedom for me is the ability to do whatever I want to be able to do in this realm, limited only by my own imagination.
Yeah, and I think Minima is definitely the network that is going to enable that, especially now that people might be becoming more aware of the fact that these big tech companies do not have our best at heart, and they are free at the moment, but they are not really free because what you pay for is your privacy. And I think people are waking up to that more. As somebody in marketing, it's also obviously advertising, people realizing, and I think Zach touched upon that earlier as well, like Facebook advertising, for example. That is also only possible because all of us, we give this big company all our data for free and they monetize upon that. And that won't be possible anymore if we all have our own data and have control over who gets to see what. Yeah, but we are also going close to 1 hour, so I'm going to move to our last question or topic for today. And it is, if you could build anything on top of Minima, what would it be? And that's also open to everybody. So if anybody wants to share what kind of ideas they have, please feel free to raise your hand and come on stage. In the meantime, Luke, what would you build if you could build anything?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've actually have a background of training as a journalist, and I remember back, you might remember the Arab Spring a while back, where people were using Twitter to, organize and share details of what was happening, and that then got curtailed to a degree. Without going into the detail of that, I would like to build or see built a citizen journalism platform that empowers people to share what's going on in their world, direct, without filter and without interference. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah. How about you, Jasmine?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. For me, I think decentralized identity and voting system. We see so much tampering and corruption in the voting system all over the world. So I think to have a tamper-proof voting system would benefit the world.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen how that can go wrong recently in the US. So yeah, having a tamper-proof voting system and on blockchain, truly decentralized, where nobody can mess with, would be a game changer. No, it doesn't seem so. Okay. But Zach, feel free to share what you would build, and anybody else as well. Feel free to share what you would build on the public chat or anywhere else. We are happy to brainstorm and hear what you would like to see built on Minima, and we're happy to help you get it started if you actually are going to attempt to do that, because yeah, Minima is for the community. So if you have ideas, things you want to see built, definitely get involved. And with that being said, thank you everybody for joining us today. Congrats to Zach again for being our community member of the month. And thanks to everybody else as well for constantly advocating for us, for running nodes and making Minima what we are today. And yeah, thank you everybody, and also to Jasmine and Luke for being on stage with me here. And I'm looking forward to hearing your ideas and to seeing you all hopefully in our next community call.